is a brief overview of the Dockerfile and how you use it. So a Dockerfile is used to create new images. We already learned in the last video what an image is, but we want to customize our own images. So first of all, the very beginning of your Dockerfile, you'll usually have an image that you're going to base this image on. So there's my parent image, if you will. So use the from keyword, and this is built on Python 2.7 Slim. Now what's really cool about this is your applications can be heavily dependent on what, for example, Python library or tied to a particular library. And so this will always work for our application. Even if they release updates or upgrades, we're still, this package we know works on Python 2.7 Slim, so this will always allow our application to run. Work dir sets our current working directory. So when our image executes, you can imagine as if it was doing a cd command, change directory into /app. The add command is similar to the copy command, where we're going to take everything in our current working directory on my host OS, copy it into my image at the /app location. The next command that we see here is run. And run is used, you can be used multiple times throughout your Dockerfile, and it will run these particular commands on the image. So in this case, pip is a Python installer that will say, go look at the requirements file and install all these requirements. Expose makes, if your application requires connectivity on a particular port, this will let the developer know, the development team, that my Docker image or container is going to listen for something on port 80. Environment variables, we can set environment variables that my application can use. That's how you do that. Finally, usually at the very end of our Dockerfile, we're going to have a cmd command that says, at runtime, I want to run Python app.py. This is when the container launches. Now, the main difference between cmd and run is all these run commands are done at build time, whereas cmd are executed at container launch time. Okay, so that's a quick overview. Let's take a look now. So Docker build -t, I'm going to call this example 1. -t says, let's tag this image. That's what I'm going to name it. Dot is I'm looking for the Dockerfile in this current working directory. I hit enter, and it downloads the image. It does any pip install stuff. So if we do a Docker images, we should see I have an example 1 image, and when it was created, the size, and that sort of thing. So again, there's my Docker build. After we build an image, we want to run it usually. So Docker run example 1. And now it's this particular application, and I didn't go look at that, but we can if we want. This particular application is just running a web server on port 8888. So let's take a look here. Back at app.py. Again, we're not focusing so much on the Python stuff. This is a simple Flask app. When they visit / on this web server, or the root on this web server, we're just going to print out hello. We're going to go grab the environment variable that we set. If it's not set, we're going to print out world. This is listing on port 8888. Fine. And so again, let's run this. And so Docker run example 1. I'm going to flip over to another terminal and see if I can curl localhost 8888. Let's try that one more, 8. Okay, connection refused. So one of the things that we have to do, let's kill this. Another thing we can add to our run command, and we learned this in Docker 101, we're going to remove the container after we're done. We can set up a port number. So when they connect to 8888 on the local host, we want to forward it into 8888 inside the container. Let's try that one. So now it's running again. Let's try curl local. Great. So now that -p switch allowed the connection to forward into the container, and you can see there's my environment variable. Awesome. So that's example 1. Let's go to example 2. Now let me kill this. Go to my example 2 directory. And if I look at the Docker file here, just another example. This is based on the Ubuntu image. We're going to copy foo.txt from my local file system into the image. We're setting an environment variable called something, set equal to some value. And then we're going to set our default shell to bin bash. And then when our container launches, this is the command it's going to launch with. So the entry point command, the entry point keyword can be used to specify the primary command used to launch. Now, you may be wondering what's the difference between CMD, because I said in the last one, we usually use CMD at the very end. Now, sorry, this is the one I should have kept. This will actually work. This will do the same thing as this entry point command. So there's 2 different ways of doing it, and by far and away, the most common thing that I use is the CMD command. So I could have just left that in there. Now they're commented out, and they would do the exact same thing. So over time, you'll learn maybe what the benefits of entry point are. But let's do we're just looking how to build and manage containers. So build -t example 2 is what we're going to tag it with. Look in my local directory for the Docker file. We can do Docker images. We see an example 2 image. Now we're going to do a Docker run example 2, and you can see that it did the shell script, and we can see that it set the environment variable, and it told us what was in the file content. So that file again was copied into the image, and then all my shell script did is cat out the contents of what was in that image. Okay, let's go to one more example just to look at Docker files again. This one's pretty basic again. Some of them can get very complicated. This one, I'm setting an environment variable based on the Ubuntu image. I'm running an apt update, install a package, and then at container launch time, I'm running cmatrix. So we're going to build it. Docker build -t matrix. Look for my Docker file in this. It's doing the apt install, apt update, whatever. We'll give that a minute. And now I'm going to, it's giving me a warning, and we can go look at that in a moment if we want. But Docker run, this is matrix. So that gave us an example of the matrix. Awesome. I'm going to hit Control C. I had to run IT there because the output of matrix is supposed to be command line stuff, so it was interacting with my terminal. So IT means interactive terminal. Let's look at this last thing, the warning here. Let's go take a look at my Docker file. So the way we are supposed to do it, the new syntax for this, is we're supposed to put it in a JSON type array, all of our commands. So let's see. That's how we're supposed to do it. We're going to rebuild the Docker container. Well, I thought that's what I did. I don't know what I did wrong, but anyway, looks like it's still, oh, I know what it is. We have to do user bin cmatrix or something like that, the absolute path. So let's go back in here to the Docker file, and I'm guessing that's the path. Oh. Maybe it wants double quotes. I don't know. Let's try that. There we go. That's what it was. Double quotes, I guess. So there's some examples of the Docker, making your own images with Docker files.